Good morning everybody. You love buttermilk biscuits? I do. And actually I want to share with you today this recipe that I created as an alternative for a healthier kind of buttermilk biscuit. So it's made with rye flour and whole wheat flour and things that you already have in your pantry, like organic whipping cream, which I use instead of buttermilk, and a very good quality butter. I'm going to show you the recipe. You're going to love it. So follow me. We're going to cook. First off, we are going to need 2 bars of butter or a cup of butter, whatever you want to call it. And if you see, I grated these with something really simple like this. Grate the butter when it's very, very cold and then put it in the freezer for at least 20 minutes. This is what is going to help us do that flaky texture that you're always looking for in a biscuit. First thing we're going to do is 2 cups of white flour, 1 cup of rye flour, and 1 cup of whole wheat flour. We're going to add salt and 4 tablespoons of baking powder. That's a lot, I know, but this is what is going to give them all what we need. Right? There you go. We mix this. And you always have to make sure you mix the flour good and always have your other ingredients very cold. You need to have them very cold. Now, the other thing that I did while I am actually just freezing my butter, this is how I make buttermilk. You just have your heavy whipping cream and you can add either a little bit of vinegar, I'll give you the recipe, or a little bit of lime or lemon. So this is how you create buttermilk. You let it rest for like 20 minutes. And I like it a little more because the buttermilk that you find in the supermarkets now is all low fat. So I actually like a full fat, especially when you're baking with whole grains. You need to know one thing. They take a lot of moisture, so you always need to figure out how you're gonna add moisture, either liquid or a little bit of fat, so it doesn't get too dry, because it's different than baking with white flour. Since we have so very little ingredients here, I would tell you more than anything, don't skip in good ingredients. Like a good butter is gonna make a big difference. So after you mix all your flours, you're gonna throw in your frozen butter that you grated before. And then you're just gonna use your hands to make like little, something that looks like coarse sand. That's the best way I can put it. The buttermilk that you created, which is whipping cream, if you wanna buy buttermilk, you can also do it. And mix it. Remember, the trick is that everything needs to be very cold. The butter is frozen and the whipping cream or buttermilk has to be also very cold. If you don't have whipping cream and you find half and half, you can also do it. But you're just gonna need to add a little bit more white flour and less of the whole wheat flours. Okay, so you see that we're creating. One thing I want to tell you when it's like this, don't manipulate it too much with your hands, because then everything that was cold, you're warming it up with your hands, and then we're going to lose that flakiness that we are actually looking for, okay? I was just kneading this for at least a minute, okay? I want to tell you something. People say that baking is all about being very precise, but there are certain things in baking like this that is very noble, and if you see you're having a hard time putting it all together and binding it, don't worry about it. Little by little, throw a little bit of ice water until it gets this consistency, right? After, what you're gonna do, start your oven at 425 degrees, because we're gonna be baking this in a very high temperature, and take your rolling pin. After you clean your surface here, just sprinkle a little bit of flour, not too much, because remember that we use a lot of whole wheat flours, so that has a tendency to be dry. So you just put it here. The trick with the biscuit seeds, you don't want to manipulate them too much, okay? Because then you're gonna warm them up and they're gonna spread when you bake them instead of rising. So you have here this. So we add this just so it doesn't stick into our rolling pin. Roll it all out. These are going to rise a lot, so just make it probably as thick as 1.5 inches. Okay, now you have your dough here, and you can start with your cookie cutter. Use actually one of these trays that is not going before baking them. It's not gonna hurt and actually might make your life way easier. All right, so now real baking for real people. You have all this left. What are you gonna do? Don't throw it away. I know everybody would tell you, don't use it. You're gonna manipulate the dough a lot. Just, you know what? Why would you throw this away? Just go ahead and do it again. You're gonna do the same thing again. So now they're ready. My tray is done. This is the actual thing that was left. So I made all these 12 biscuits. They're here. I don't brush them with anything. Feel free to brush them with something shiny like egg wash, or maybe egg wash and a little bit of half and half. Put them in the oven, 425 degrees, for at least 25 minutes, but you're gonna have to keep an eye on them. Out of the oven. Look how tall they are. We're gonna set them down, then put them in a cooling rack.